all sorts of other religions as well because of that.
Well, am I wrong in thinking that as various societies have tried to figure out the nature of whatever you want to call it, God is what it is in English, Allah in Arabic, and I think that's interesting because there were groups that killed Christians in Islamic countries that spoke Arabic because they used the word Allah in their service to refer to the concept of the Christian Allah, which is correct. I mean,
it'd be like saying God in being killed for saying God in English while being a Muslim and speaking about.
And yet,
about tomatoes, but they said tomatoes.
I don't think that's quite the same context.
well, because like some authors that I know that are really great, like No God But God is a text by Reza Aslan. Which is the same as the name of the lion in the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Aslan. So he's talking about Allah in that book. So when you look at the argument, the ontological argument, I don't think of that as solely a Christian.
I think it was just when she saw the word God, she kind of thought we were talking about Christianity, and like, I think she was just connecting it with that other than like thinking it was for like all.
I think what also like got me is the fact that it started with God and then God was capitalized, and when I see God capitalized, I think of the Christian God because when you see it,
I capitalize it.
because it's the start of the sentence and that's grammatically correct.
Well, and also because it's proper noun. You capitalize proper noun. Like if you write Bible, you're supposed to capitalize Bible, unless you're using it like the student Bible, that's on the website. Well, in that sense, that's not a proper noun, so you could use small b. But if you're talking about the capital T, Bible, capital B, that's not necessarily a term of respect. It's a requirement because of the way grammar works. So whereas in German, it's odd to me that you use a capital letter for a noun, even when it's in the middle of a sentence. So that's weird. If you're into German or not. However, those are just languages I plug around with, my experience. I don't want to lose it, right? Use it or lose it kind of thing. I passed my tests in German and French and Russian, so I don't want to lose those. But I mean, on the other hand, I'm not sure I ever had it either. It's very puzzled, very confused about that. I was talking with a friend of a friend, who I suppose is a friend. He's a nice guy, but he's also a fundamentalist, from what I understand, which is, I think I'm a fundamentalist myself, but our fundamentals are different, if that makes sense. So my fundamentals are axioms, and axioms, you have to believe them, otherwise you can't play the game, right? But I was talking about philosophy. One goal of philosophy is to confuse everyone, because you come in and you think you know stuff, and then I'm supposed to ask you the time-honored questions that make you doubt whether you know that, right? And then once you get that, I'm supposed to then hit you with another set of questions that make you doubt that, and the goal, of course, is so that you're theoretically going up steps, meta levels of education, so that you become more and more aware, right? So, you start off in a box, but you need to look at the bigger box, but then you need to look at the bigger box, and you need to look, right? And it's intellectual questions that historically have led us to get out of each successive box. So in a sense, yes, I'm confusing people, and it's painful, theoretically. Might not be really painful, but I mean, I've seen some people. I remember one year, I had a student who was clean, dressed well, did his homework, showed up, all that kind of stuff. And we got to Kierkegaard, Søren Kierkegaard. And once we got to Kierkegaard, he was just, absolutely struck by Kierkegaard's writing. A couple of years later, I saw the same student, and he was haggard looking. You can tell he's not had showers in 2 years. Big circles under his eyes, wearing a dark trench coat, just looking, glassy-eyed, and I said, as soon as I saw him, I said, "Are you still reading Søren Kierkegaard?" And he says, "I can't get enough of him." And I was like, stop!
That's sketchy.
Kierkegaard can kill you. You have to go beyond Kierkegaard. Now, Kierkegaard brings you up to a certain level of desperation. The fear and trembling. The night, the night of fear and trembling, where you have to take a leap of faith, etc. And he dies at 42 because of depression himself, probably. He's in his own journal, he writes about, he's the hit of the party, and he comes home and he contemplates committing suicide, with a pistol. You think, whoa, this is a stage you have to go through, but don't stay there too long. Quickly move on to, like John Dewey or something, You'll be okay. He'll survive it if you go on. Yeah. Same thing with Nietzsche. I think Nietzsche can be deadly, because you feel, that can really screw a person up. But don't be stuck there. Move on. But yet at the same time, it's certainly a stage that we go through. Well, so the person I was talking to at the breakfast one Sunday said that I ought to read a couple of books, and he mentioned them. And so I got them out of the library and quick read through them. And they're novels where the angels literally fight with the demons with swords. This Present Evil was one of the books. So the angels are literally trying to save these people in this town from the demons. And the demons, even though they fight the angels with swords, the way they try to corrupt the town is through like the psychology professor that tries to confuse students in the school.
I see.
Thanks. I'm picturing the evil demons, that are described in horrible, terms, and it's prompting me to ask you these questions to just totally screw up your faith. Basically do my job. However. So, what kind of car do you think Jesus would drive? What a crazy question, right?
Pretty awesome.
What kind of automatic weapon would Jesus buy? AR-15, you think?
No, a Nerf gun.
Yes.
A Nerf gun?
Yes.
One of those electronic Nerf guns.
A bazooka?
Those hurt.
Or, maybe
Oh, yeah.
wood.
What kind of computer would he use? A lot of people
I
think
think
he
it's a
would
Mac
use an
person.
Apple. He was a
Yeah.
Mac person.
Yeah.
I'd say Mac.
No,
It's clearly.
I don't see him as like a PC Master Race kind of dude.
Well, but think about it.
Degenerate.
The icon for an apple is a apple with a bite out of it.
it seems kind of like a poor choice.
Yeah.
Really, like, see that bite? That's what got me into this mess. So that would be pretty good. Well, this one this class, we're talking about the ontology in art. Ontology in art. And here's one that I'm puzzled over. In fact, I'll make this the quiz question for today. Is Elon Musk's car out in space art?
This is gonna be a really stupid question. I do not know who Elon Musk is. I don't know what he does. Like, who is this guy?
Some dude that put a
Yeah.
bar.
Oh, he's the creator? Oh.
And he also created PayPal, and he also
Oh.
created
Yeah.
SpaceX.
I just knew you figured you've heard of Tesla.
Yeah, no, okay, I just didn't know. I've heard his name a lot lately
Well,
because of
Tesla, the actual guy was a different person.
Nikola Tesla was a different person.
Yeah. But the company, the car company is Tesla, right?
this. Yeah.
And he's the owner, I believe, CEO?
CEO.
CEO. I know he's a billionaire.
Yeah, so he's doing well in life.
Huh.
Yeah,
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 That'd be
although,
nice.
Well, he actually pretty much lives off subsidies to subsidies from the government for creating contracts and filling them in, having certain means of productions. There's kind of a joke going around. He made all this money last month and completely put it into SpaceX and his boring tunnel company and something else. And he took loans out to pay for his mortgage for his house.
He took out, say that last part again?
It's kind of a joke going around that since he took all the money that he made from last month, he pretty much put it all back into his companies. He had to take a loan out to pay the mortgage on his house.
Oh, Lord.
but he's the CEO of SpaceX, which was the rocket company that shot his car up into space.
I've never heard of
Wow,
Neuralink.
he's divorced. a few times.
Neuralink?
I've never heard of that.
They're
I've heard of
the
the
company,
company,
I think
He
it was
married
in
the
early
same
2000s
woman
that,
twice and
wanted
then
to do,
divorced her twice?
commercial
Yeah,
space
that's
travel
weird.
for people.
Why?
Within the year, they got remarried and then divorced 3 years later.
That's dumb.
6 children.
It's totally the Lex Luthor of our generation.
What I recommend, that's a good analogy, yeah. What I recommend to young men is that you marry the smartest woman who will marry you, and then you stay married to that person, and you do what she says, you know, because,
It's worked for you. You've been married a
Oh.
long time, haven't you?
just the once,
Yeah.
yes. I tell people I'm not a gambler. I married, you know, I gambled the one time, got married. But no, I stayed married to that person. And I do what she says. Although,
Smart man.
I mean, sometimes we discuss things. But then when she makes her final decision, that's what we have to do. You know, that's, you know, so she still lets me get the last word in.
That's very nice for her.
Yes, dear. You know, that's, you've heard that joke before, I'm sure.
How long have you been married?
45 years
Oh, wow.
so far.
So,
So, not that one.
So I don't understand why he divorced and remarried. I don't know
probably
why.
comes
And
down to the
who's,
whole money thing.
and what's Neuralink?
I mean, he's only worth $20.8 billion. No
Yeah,
big
it's-
deal.
Totally cool.
There's gonna be a lot more of this too, so he's
That's gonna blow up in the news pretty soon, I bet.
leading edge stuff.
Yeah.
Which is, yeah, I'm looking forward to when, as soon as I think, you know, when you ask a question, as soon as I think it, it's up there.
That's a bad
And
idea.
I don't have to go
Bad idea.
What
type.
else would show up on that screen? What
Yeah,
goes through that mind?
That's dangerous.
Well, you know, that's gonna happen too.
Yeah.
And, you know, people ask me questions and I answer, and then I think, oh shit, should I have said that?
Story of my life.
But, you know,
But then this could be like a lie detector thing or something. Or
yeah, well, I've passed lots of those lie detector tests. I had top secret clearances my whole career. So, figure either I'm a good person or just too dumb to, you know, that's, what can I say? But I've found being honest, and I mean, there are secrets I have that I'm not allowed to tell. I joke that, you know, when I left the skiff the last time, the machine went zzz, you know, and I forgot. But no, that doesn't really happen. You still remember all that stuff, and you think, not allowed to talk about that. However, so today's question, though, is, well, is Elon Musk's car out in space art? Now, a problem with that, of course, is that apart from the video made, it's probably still running. I know it's not live anymore, as far as I know. Maybe.
No, that's out of range.
Is it out of range? Well,
That
I mean,
being
V'ger still sends us the information.
I don't know what sensors they had on it, but I don't think it was anything as strong as what they had on the actual rover. But the amount of actual like space to bring stuff that's actually bombarding the car and stuff like that, it probably looks like Swiss cheese by now. Honestly.
You think so?
Oh yeah, the amount of small meteorites and stuff that just like passing right through it like it's butter. Absolutely. I mean, you gotta remember we have that stuff hit our atmosphere like thousands of times a day, easy. It just burns up in the atmosphere. You just can't see it during the day. So,
Was the nasty part about the movie Gravity?
yeah, like this was a really cool thing and all, but ultimately he just threw more litter into space.
Yeah.
Right. But I didn't write this article. Did he make art? Too.
What was his goal of sending the car up? Was there a
The whole entire thing was to test the two retroactive rockets to separate from the main body, recover themselves, and be able to use, because it takes the price per kilogram of space travel from $65,000 to $1,500 per kilogram. And they had nothing else to bring up there into space and launch the satellites or anything, so he just decided to take one of those that was built for this particular model. And they did a little, this is a mock-up suit of his futuristic spacesuit that they are also doing, and they launched it into space. And they wanted to test, because these rockets could take up the most weight that anything that we've ever produced, ever. Oh yeah, that would burn up.
Yeah, it would burn up, but I mean, it would probably be still safe.
Yeah, if you're
Like watch
actually
the
at
live
nighttime,
feed and watch
probably
it
look
slowly
pretty
just
freaking
fall
cool.
back into the planet. T-I-B-E-R.
Did I misspell it? What is it?
I think it was T-I-B-E-R. Time and this.
Oh. I spelled the same thing in both places. That's pretty good. What? I'm spelling something wrong. Oh, it's wrong book. Magor. That's the hardest thing. This is it. So this is the first piece she mentions. I haven't seen it in a museum. Frankly, I wouldn't pay to go see it in a museum. So that brings up still another question, and we could ask that about everything else. I mean, how many of you have seen or been to the Louvre? No one? You wish. I don't wish.
Really?
No.
Because of the crowds or because of the art?
I've been to the Louvre with my Oculus Rift, and I've seen everything
It's just mediocre to you?
of interest. Well, no, fantastic stuff.
Okay.
The crowds are fantastic too.
Is that why?
Yeah, and like every image you see of the room where they have the Mona Lisa, right, has so many people, and the Mona Lisa is this little painting up on the wall that only the people close, and you can't really even get that close because of course they're absolutely desperate to try to protect it, right? I have a copy of that is probably about the same size. I used to have it in my office, but now it's at home in the garage someplace. But you know what? It's really just about as good as seeing it in person. And in fact, if I go on here, just type Mona Lisa.
Do you not like to travel? I know you've mentioned a few times that you would rather just go on Google Maps.
There you go.
That's even better. That's Artie Feldman, right?
Magnificent.
Welcome to your nightmares.
That Mona Lisa smile.
But yeah, the I like to travel? That's to some extent yes, but you know, flying
That can be a pain.
is I mean, I've flown lots of times. I mean, we lived in, apart from growing up in Pennsylvania and driving to New Jersey every dang summer to go to the shore, and a few other places, New York City, for various things. Been to Florida, flew, that was the first time ever I flew, was flying down to Orlando for our 4th wedding anniversary. We went to Disney World and Epcot wasn't there yet. We went to Tampa, to like the Cypress Gardens and Cape Kennedy, saw the space, stuff, all those various things. Of course, join the Army, you end up being sent to places, first by train, but eventually by plane, then by car.
So you've done your traveling.
I've been, in Germany for the 3 years, Berlin. I went back again for another 2 weeks to Augsburg. Saw a lot of things there. Would have liked to have seen more, but the actual travel is a pain in the butt.
I'm afraid of flying, but I like to travel.
Yeah, but the thing is, I've been to enough places that I know what it's like to be there. So last night, for some reason, I turned on my Oculus Rift and went to Google Earth, and it showed me Yosemite. And I started off like at the top of that place where they climb, and I just kind of went slowly down the cliff, which is weird because, of course, you feel like you're actually out over space, and you're just going down and up and around. And I ended up then going to the East Carmel Valley and following that along the road. It's really nicely done, so you could like just click along the road and see the cows and the trees and the moss, and you just keep driving along, and then I took it all the way into Monterey, and then I went to bed. So that was fun, and it reminded me because I spent a year in Monterey in the Defense Language Institute, so that's all nice, but way easier than actually trying to travel there. Way cheaper, even though I guess the Oculus Rift is what, $399, and plus it's the computer really that costs you the most, right? Depending on which one you buy, but I think roughly around $1,500 is about minimum entry level to use either of those.
A fraction of that if you build it yourself.
That's building it yourself.
That's
So
really
you
weird.
need
Not with the price of the graphics cards nowadays.
Yeah,
Like,
Oh,
that's true.
yeah.
mining.
Getting it
$1,000.
So, yeah, I love traveling, but virtually.
Realistically, though.
Virtually, yeah.
seems to me to be, now, and that's the thing is, so if I'm looking at this right now here, this way, or even if I'm wearing a device that makes me feel like I'm in the room crowded, I'm looking at this little painting up in the front, because that's about as close as people can get, right? But I mean, is this the same thing? No. No one would say that it's the same thing.
The only advantage is seeing it in person, is smelling it, being in the atmosphere, being in the air around it, being able to see the brush strokes, being able to appreciate it for the
Brush strokes are supposed to go to the left instead of to the right, because remember, Da Vinci was left-handed.
Well, you wouldn't be able to tell that until you saw the edge of the painting, though, which you couldn't see.
I
because it was
don't
always
think you
framed.
could see the brush strokes in person.
Is that smooth?
You're not allowed to get that close.
That's the sad part. Not unless you have money. Donate a lot of money, you can get some personal time with it.
Well,
That sounds wrong.
maybe,
Personal time.
maybe. Or if you're Tom Hanks and you're in the movie, I guess.
That was great.
You imagine the guy writing on the painting itself, not on this one, but,
The fresco was good.
but when we think of this, the problem that, of course, the author brings up, Amy brings up
Botulism?
in this is, how long is this gonna last? Not as long, I think, as Da Vinci's 15 paintings. I mean, because these things are going to gradually go bad, etc. So that's one example. So ontology is all what there is, right? So sorry, this is still one of those big questions. If that was my problem, that in class we talk about big stuff in the sense that it's a big idea. How do we know what there is? In this particular case, you're applying it to art. So is that a piece of art? Legally, could anyone duplicate that and then get sued by the artist? I mean, you wouldn't even have to come close. I mean, I bet everybody's pantry, if they're into canning or jarring various kinds of things, you actually have copies of this to some extent. But could the artist even think about suing you for copyright infringement?
Or maybe even, was that trademark too, would work, because a reasonable amount of confusion would be created so that they would not be able to tell the difference between the others, right?
Well, I mean, what judge would look at that and complain that you're making your own version of her art without paying her something for her trouble?
They already say it.
No one that
Long
I
line
would
of people
hire
that
as a
would
judge.
Probably, yeah, there's a long line of people that probably would argue that fact just for the sake of arguing now.
What's the next one? Oh, the next one is the FedEx large box, right? Did you look it up? Did you look any of these up? Walid Beshti's. Sorry, my short-term memory should be better than it is, but. But now, so then you have to be specific, because he did lots of these. So apparently, he used FedEx to mail glass boxes inside a box. And the resulting damage Yes, is that how that worked? Right? You know, so basically, this is what happened to his glass box that he mailed in the FedEx box, and now you can see, and now that's art. And someone, yes, they actually bought this. It's in a museum. In fact, you saw there were lots of variants of this. So apparently he tried lots of different boxes, sent lots of different glass objects, and we end up then with, these are the results, you know.
Well, I mean, normally art is something that like conveys a message. So obviously, don't ship your shit with FedEx, right? Because they're not going to handle your packages
But it was
correctly.
UPS guy that was spiking the packages over the fence.
You trust no one then, like don't ship packages. But I think that's what, like, yeah, you can laugh at it. I do think it's pretty stupid, especially if a museum spent millions of dollars to buy
I
the
got this
rights
by
to it.
FedEx,
You know, they showed up on time.
or somebody
Someone-
shipped this,
Yes.
and you know what? Except for this problem,
Yeah.
Okay, well, there you go.
which, you know, it's,
I mean, it's
water
not
is-
really
It might have
FedEx's
also
fault,
just
but.
been made that way.
For your homies.
I put hot coffee in here, it seals it really well.
That's good. That's what it's supposed to do.
I don't
So,
want to
so it's
advance.
made for hot fluids, and they stay hot like all day. So it's really, really good for hot fluids. Cold water, on the other hand,
Not so much.
even when you like do this and you drink it through the spout, it still leaks out here, so you get wet.
No way. What'd you do to yours to damage it?
It isn't damaged. That's the way it came.
Mm.
But I sent it by FedEx, or it arrived by FedEx, so maybe.
Put it in a hot dryer for the dishwasher. Dried it on high.
So this is art.
Yes, I would agree that that's art. I like those. Those are pretty cool.
It's art.
Doesn't-
You can laugh at it, but it is art.
It hurts. It hurts. My poor brain.
What do you count as art, then?
See, it's all through perspective and your own opinion, what you see is beautiful or ugly.
That's what she says.
Yes.
That's what she's arguing. So we're done.
Good talk, guys.
That's
All right,
not what
see
it
it.
is.
See you Thursday.
I know, making stained glass pictures, like mosaics or whatnot, with those pieces, that would be art. I mean, how far do you have to go to prove that it is art, or that you have a message that is conveyed?
We are such a lucky society that we have these kinds of problems.
This is a problem?
That's the first world problem. I mean, you wake up.
I mean,
early.
What is art?
We also have.
I mean,
a
it
lot
doesn't
more
keep
serious
me awake at night. Oh my god, what is art?
You mean I
Some
failed?
people it does.
That's so weird.
Here I was hoping that you would be tossing and turning last night,
Sorry, no.
trying to decide, you know, what is art.
No.
I mean, she's making a career out of this. You know,
Good
Fine.
for her. Like,
you know, I found
Thank you so much for the cats don't exist and so on. This certainly seems to conflict with common sense, although obviously the eliminativist will try to show you how you can say what you wanted to by saying, oh yeah, but it's okay because part of the image table exists.
so.
But you get claims like
So
this is
she's
sort of like
published.
this,
She's
nice
got a
line.
position.
You do get philosophers, Peter Van Inwagen.
This
saying
is
things
philosophy.
Like, all things considered, you
Talking
know,
about
we usually
ontology.
would say this.
How does this become
Apples exist because
an
you
important
can
question?
You get some curious consequences.
The first thing that occurs to me
Another
is legal.
consequence of this sort of approach to metaphysics, right, is that you
She mentions Quine. Where does this problem originate? It's ancient, actually.
Quine?
Quine on what there is.
About quinine. That was good fizzy drinks to keep people with upset stomachs down.
Sense of being analytic for the language or for the speech community, and that would mean for all competent speakers.
He died in
But, on the other hand,
2000?
Always we are constantly having to resort to this notion of
December.
competent speaker, and that's
Wow.
the
2000.
defense of
That was
Presbyterian,
3
which
years
does
old.
sound good to me.
Well, the idea of the competent speaking comes in this little passage in Pursuit of Truth, where you said,
Okay. W.V. Quine, was he one of the gentlemen that's fire burned brighter the later in his years he got? Like, did he, but, like,
His first impressive essay that made him famous among people that read philosophy was 1951, and it was Two Dogmas of Empiricism. And it's amazing, because up until this point, as far as I understand it, Aristotle basically ruled the roost and said that you have two kinds of
that's a word, empiricism? Sorry to interrupt you.
I've showed you this before now, multiple times.
It is two dogmas of empiricism.
Two Dogmas of Empiricism.
Okay. That's the logic box, right? Or the argumentative box,
It's actually on the web. You can
empiricism.
They have
Okay.
they have it. Two Dogmas of Empiricism, and the dogma is that statements of this type are analytic, and statements of this type are synthetic. And so I have two different kinds of knowledge: definitional knowledge, analytic knowledge, or as Quine and others pronounce it, analyticity, because it's analytic, right? Be like horses are animals. But synthetic information would be this sort of thing where I know something specific. The water bottle you brought today is hot orange? I don't know, what color would you call it?
It's like a pink, I
It's like
guess.
salmon.
Is it pink,
Yeah.
salmon?
Yes, that's pink.
Salmon. I didn't know that before. You know, I know it's a water bottle. That's analytic information, but that it, in this particular case, is salmon colored, is synthetic. So I have two different kinds of information. But what Quine points out is that if I have a statement such as, for anything you pick, and I'll use just X in parentheses as a symbol for anything you pick, it is da-da-da-da-da, whatever. That turns out to be equivalent to saying that it's not the case that there is something that is not that.
That's uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable. So for anything you pick, it's this.
Okay.
It's equivalent to saying it's not the case that there is something that's not that.
Just getting worse. Sorry.
This is worse.
Great, awesome, okay.
For anything you pick, it's not the case that it's that. Is equivalent to saying it's not the case that there is something that is that.
Yeah, thanks. Okay.
So there's a pattern here. See if you
She's a
can,
bunch of squigglies.
it's not, well, that means it's not the case
Not.
that for anything you pick,
Okay.
it is this.
Mm-hmm.
That's equivalent to saying there is something that is not that. And not the case for anything you pick that it's not this, is equivalent to saying that there is one. This is called quantifier exchange, or there's other names for it depending on the logic book, etc. But essentially, all of these are analytic statements. Because they're talking about, and all of these are synthetic. So Aristotle was wrong. Galileo demonstrated that he was wrong about motion. It occurred to me that, you know, Galileo had a lot of balls to prove that. You know, that the church supported Aristotle, and Galileo comes along and drops his balls.
In a vacuum, right?
No, from the Tower of Pisa.
Oh, okay, that
Which was not in a vacuum.
That was not one, that wasn't a vacuum.
Yeah, they invented a vacuum, actually. They invented the concept of the vacuum because they realized that depending on, like, water, if you dropped it in water, it's different than in air, etc. So that's kind of fun. But, yeah, so analytic and synthetic are equivalent, which means that these are not different than these. That's like 2,300 years worth of belief down the toilet,
That seems to happen a lot.
which in the northern hemisphere means it goes clockwise. Okay. So that was pretty significant. And how does this affect practical things? If knowledge that we have, you know, horses are this, and all of a sudden along comes a horse that's a cow,
That would be a cow.
I will be drastically conflicted. I'll have to adapt my web of belief, which is really kind of neat. What's it called when you have a presentation, a PPT? Is it?
No, wait, presentation.
PPT.
PTX? Or PPT.
PPT, right?
Talking about a PowerPoint, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So he had a co-author, Joseph Ulian, for a little book called The Web of Belief. So he talks about the web metaphor, the idea that we have, in our minds, we have all these beliefs. They're the analytic beliefs. On the periphery are synthetic beliefs, kind of like damage or change the web. You know, something lands on the web, and it has to damage the web pretty far in for it to have to change your analytic beliefs. So it's kind of the, you know, the web of belief, how the various kinds of things.
The web on fire.
Pardon?
What happens when we set the web on fire?
You're dead.
Flaming web of belief.
You know, you drove a spike through his head. Guy dies usually,
Usually.
unless you're like that one miner that lived, and for some reason though his personality changed.
I wonder why that
Yeah,
was.
kind of famous.
Did they left him,
The intensity of the web.
they lost, didn't he lose part of his short-term memory, or was that a different occasion where a guy got a screwdriver stuck in his head, not the actual?
That was a different one. Yeah,
Why do you
the
do
one I'm
that?
thinking of was he had a iron rod that he was putting
Please stop.
to push in,
Please no.
and
My
it
head's
went,
hurting. No?
So is his.
The cool thing is that no matter how damaged your brain is, for the most part, it'll remap itself, given enough time and encouragement.
orange juice.
an encouragement. You got this.
I don't know, I could be totally wrong.
You can do it.
I believe
So-
in